Get rolling. Excellent. Okay. We are here, excuse me, 11 o'clock on August 20th for a regular meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. If we could all silence our cell phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment. Thanks. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking over the agenda, I think I saw right that agenda items 11 and 18 need to come off. Are those the right? The personal property disposition policy and county attorney contract. That's fine.
I was also wondering if you could take off 17, the county manager's contract, for further discussion and review.
Okay.
And I had spoken with Michael Yearman yesterday, and since he's here for items 1 and 2, I was wondering if we might just add a discussion item after that as 3 for an update on Harrison Avenue and a thoughts on, LIHTC, thank you, LIHTC development and phone calls and conversations that have been going on.
Yeah, just maybe make sure we don't go too far afield so it's not properly posted, I guess.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. On the county managers, I mean, my understanding was it was sort of an extension of the current contract, but you wanted to have a discussion about some changes in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Sorry,
attorneys, but you said that right.
Yeah, so 11, 17, and 18 removed and some additional discussion after 2. So with those changes,
I'll move to approve the agenda with those changes.
I'll second.
No further discussion from me.
Okay, so
Aye.
aye, okay. The agenda is approved with those noted changes. Community information items, none from me. Commissioner Mulch?
Nothing for me today.
Okay.
No.
Okay, great. Public comment for items not on the agenda. Anyone here for public comment? Want to get something on our radar screen? See nothing in the room, nothing on Zoom. No one logged in. Okay. So straight on into agenda item number 1, discussion and consideration of a professional services agreement with Adam Berger Development LLC for architectural design, pre-construction, bid management, marketing plan, website design, and accounting fees for the Lake County Housing at 10,200 feet project. Michael Yearman, you're listed as leading us off on this one.
Morning, can you guys hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so this is the architectural services for the vertical construction piece of the housing plan. The contract here is for 150,000. The 75 of this was anticipated as part of our architectural fees. The other 75 is part of the vertical construction costs. Basically, what we wanted to do with this contract, because we're not yet ready to enter into a construction contract, because we need final plans and construction estimates, we are doing this as the first step to make sure that Mr. Adam Berger is compensated for the architectural services in the event that we don't move forward with vertical construction. So this is the first step. The other piece in here that is included in the scope of work is also the marketing and the creation of a website so that we can start selling the units. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Any questions?
I was just gonna say, no questions for me.
Yeah, no, thanks for that context. I didn't have any questions on this one either. Okay, I think we're good on this. So, yeah, you can,
I'll move to approve the professional service agreement with Adam Berger Development LLC for architectural design, pre-construction bid management, marketing plan, website design, and accounting fees for the Lake County Housing at 10,200 project.
So moved. Or second? Second. Great, and so there's no questions, so go right to a vote.
I approve, aye.
Aye, aye, great, so that PSA with Adam Berger Development LLC is approved. Maybe just one sort of question down the road, when do you think that next phase contract will be coming towards us? What's the rough timeline on that stage of the construction contract?
Probably the first 2 weeks of October. So we're currently going through the bidding process. He's going through the bidding process with all of his subs, getting final costs. So our hope is by mid-September to have construction costs, and then it'll take probably 3 to 4 weeks for us to draft and get the contract to where it's ready for the BOCC consideration. But October 18th is now the new deadline for Prop 123 for us to submit the initial LOI for the December 1st deadline to actually go after that funding, and a construction contract and final costs are required to be done by that point. So October 18th is really kind of the looming deadline for all of us.
Okay, but that still seems possible to get that done?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I will commend his team. They have been working feverishly without this contract, which has made me nervous. But you know, I think they're doing that in good faith with the desire to make sure that this project's successful. So this is a huge important step for them to feel a little less pressure of being compensated for their work right now.
Great, okay. Then let's move on to agenda item number 2.
Freeze.
Oh. Sorry. Are we frozen? Is he frozen?
Are you back, Michael?
He's frozen.
Is back?
We
Sorry.
can hear you.
Am
Can
I
you hear
back?
us? Yep.
Yeah, you sound good on voice now. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear us?
All right. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you guys. I'm gonna turn off my my camera.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, let's try. So agenda item number 2, discussion and consideration of bid award for the 3rd Street Sewer Extension Project number 24010 for the Lake County Housing at 10,200 project. So
Yes.
Mike, great, yeah.
Yep, so we put this out to bid. Great news on this is it actually came well within budget. GM Excavation is who we are wanting to award the bid to. This is for the sewer main extension for the project. We had I think 50 budgeted, and this came back at I had to close my screen down. I think it was 160 something, but they were the lowest bidder. Morrison Engineering did do their due diligence and reference checks on the bid and recommended the lowest bidder on the project, GM Excavation.
Gotcha, yeah, 166 628.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. No, it's all in, there's a good summary table in the packet, so.
Great. One final thing here is that the motion is to select them and to have the county manager execute a contract after legal review in
Okay.
your motion.
And just for kind of process wise, I'm gonna list all the 5 bidders, it looks like. We got GM Excavation, 5B Excavating and Construction, Go Direct Plumbing, CUC Construction, and Colorado Civil Infrastructure Incorporated. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
That's good. I'll move to award the bid to GM Excavation pending final legal review.
great, I'll second.
No further discussion from me, I think.
Okay.
Michael, was that anything else from you?
No, did you add in another agenda item or?
Yes, you sorry, just before we took the vote to,
Yeah.
award GM excavation.
But nothing, no
Nope,
further
nothing more to add.
questions
Thanks.
for us on this before we go for a vote on that bid award? Okay, we have a motion on the table, so call for a vote.
In favor, aye.
Aye. Aye, so that bid award to, sorry, I just closed it out again,
GM
to,
excavation.
thank you, GM Excavation is approved. Great. And then, yeah, Michael, if you wanna go ahead and, I think it was updates on the Harrison project and also some of the LIHTC discussions.
Yep, so I apologize that my screen's not on, but I hope you can hear me. The update on the Harrison ball fields is that we are proceeding with working with the rec master planning engineers. I will actually be in town on Thursday for the steering committee discussion. Again, they've narrowed down their site selections to 4 sites. But one thing that has become apparent to me is that the housing needs assessment has stirred the developer pool of LIHTC developers. And I've gotten quite a few inquiries around the idea of doing a LIHTC project in Lake County because of your recent needs assessment pointing a big flashing arrow as a very viable site for that type of project. What I would suggest we do is, as we proceed, is to actually do something very similar to what we just went through with the selection of the 3 for the vertical construction, and to put out as part of the Harrison master plan selection of a LIHTC developer. My suggestion on doing this is really based upon the fact that you, as commissioners, are going to be in, just like you were in the last developer selection process, in a position of negotiating power, especially as we look at the potential of a land donation and also some of the infrastructure funds that we already have set aside for that site. I think you're going to be able to vet and see different developers that can bring strong projects to Lake County. I would tell you that LIHTC developers are kind of a little bit higher, highly sophisticated because of the amount of process that they have to undergo to get those tax credits. And I've done similar selection processes for other communities that yielded really good results, in that the elected bodies were able to really kind of get to meet different firms and look at previous projects and find the right fit for your community. For instance, like down in Salida where I live, the developer even built a little community center for the development, which would jive really well with what we're talking about with the master planning process. So with that, if that's something that the commissioners want to pursue, we're kind of in that stage of the game with Harrison that we can amend, especially now that the planning piece is being covered through the rec plan, master plan. We can kind of transition to do more of bringing in a team member that has LIHTC experience for you guys to vet as to be part of the process if we move forward with that site for the rec master plan as well.
Can I ask you, it feels like or maybe you just expand a little bit on the timeline or sequencing. It just feels like to actually get a LIHTC developer under contract feels like a little quick, given where I thought we were on the Harrison planning. Like I just don't want it to feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves, but maybe you can.
Yeah, no, I could definitely concur with you on that. I think the RFP will be to go into the planning stage with a LIHTC developer and to do some feasibility analysis. So have them be part of the planning team so that they can be talking about the size of the site they need and what kind of unit counts, et cetera, they see as the potential absorption. I think what I would say is that I have definitely fielded quite a few calls from different big developers that are fishing. So I would just be mindful that, if you are going to field phone calls or have conversations with those developers, we should do it in a competitive process environment where we're bringing in and having a fully vetted process like we did with our last selection.
Okay, and at what point, sorry, two follow-up questions then, at what point? So, sorry, what's the question? So it's sort of too inefficient to have like multiple LIHTC developers sort of floating around in the Harrison planning process, is that kind of the idea, like you sort of wanna have picked one that feels like a good fit, and then actually have them like more engaged than if they were just sort of fishing around?
Yeah, I think that what you have to understand is that your needs assessment really points to a 9% application, which is extremely competitive and is an extremely desirable project for these developers. And so what they all lack is a piece of property in which to build their development. The cadence too that I think is really important for the BOC to see to remember is because the Harrison site will actually wind up going through a PUD process at some point. You know, you don't want to have multiple proposals out there. You want to have a developer bringing forward a land use application that was part of a vetted master plan versus them coming in independently on their own. Because that's going to it's going to cause a lot of confusion, and it's also, quite frankly, they're going to eat each other because it's so competitive. So I think again, you know, going out there and saying we have a set aside 2 acre site, which would produce about 48 units, which is right in line with the needs assessment, and that they would be part of the planning and making sure that their site fits within the community needs of what we're doing with the rec master plan. You know, then we create the parcel, and then at that point, they would be coming forward again to the BOCC and the planning commission with a full-blown land use application. So,
Okay, yeah, and then I think sorry, I mean to cut that off, but my second sort of set of, or line of questions was, yeah, what's the sort of scope of that initial RFP? Or
so
like a rough
I
cost?
think, yeah, I think the initial scope of that is that they would, I think we would do it as a two-step RFP in that we would select a developer and they would participate in the master planning process. And based on the viability and the feasibility of the project, we could either continue to work with them or go back to a competitive RFP for the actual development.
Gotcha, okay,
So I would give us an out on, you know, not saying we're fully committed, but that, you know, that if the BOCC, at the time and it, you know, of the final master plan wants to pursue that, project, then that they could potentially be selected.
right, okay.
That one might be gone.
Could you, I was just gonna say, could you draft something for us to review and consider publishing, Michael?
Yeah, I think that's that sounds like an excellent idea. Why don't, with your direction, I'll get a draft ready and I'll come back at your next meeting and we can walk through a little bit more of the cadence of how that looks.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
that
you.
sounds great.
Thanks, Michael.
Do you have any other questions? Okay, great, thanks for that update, and glad, yeah, that's great. All good to move on to number 3?
Yes.
So a discussion and consideration of an optional premises liquor license renewal hearing for Mount Massive Golf Club license number 05-08293-000.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, so Mount Massive Golf Club is up for their annual renewal of the license. They have gone through the steps with the state, they've gone through the steps with us, paid both their local and state fees. They posted their notice 10 days prior to this hearing, and we have received no comments.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sure I'm just spacing, but what is an optional premises liquor license?
I would have to look at the resolution to define it,
Okay,
but
I should ask, I
It's
should
for
ask.
recreational facility,
Okay.
not
I'm
as
spacing on ever,
opposed to a retail
like a-
or a
okay.
restaurant.
yeah, there's about 10 different types of licenses, depends on the type of the business. And the state pretty much picks.
okay. It was just a strange word. Not a word I would have picked to describe a liquor license, but that's fine.
Yes, I had to double check it 6 times.
Excellent, then I'm all good.
I don't have any questions, unless you wanna open it up for any public comment.
Thank you. Liz, thanks for mentioning that we hadn't received any public comment before, but, if there's anyone here in person in the room, pretty sure not, online. Just looking at people who are logged in. Maybe Karen Lewis, I don't know. But I'm not seeing any hands up or unmuting online for public comment on the golf course liquor license. Golf club liquor license.
Doesn't look like it.
So, okay, but just hang it in there for a little unmute fumbling. Okay, so we'll close the opportunity for public comment and look for a motion on that Mount Massive Golf Club license.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve Mount Massive Golf Club optional premises liquor license number 05-08-293-0000.
Great, second?
That's it, is it 4 zeros at the end or 3?
4-0-0-0-0.
4 zeros.
Okay,
Okay, it's 3 on the
agenda,
agenda.
Apologies.
but-
looking at the
I'm
map.
looking at the memo.
Yeah,
Okay, just wanna make
Okay.
sure,
yeah, no,
no further discussion from me,
okay, call for a vote.
uh,
Aye,
in favor, aye.
great, so that is approved.
Thank you.
Thanks. Agenda item number 4, discussion and consideration of Cloud City Conservation Center, or C4, transferring county contributed funds in the amount of 100,000 from deed restriction funding to the Energy Assistance Fund to further address deferred maintenance on housing stock. Tim, you're listed as kicking us off on this.
Sure, just for background, for this fiscal year, the county contributed $300,000 to C4 to address deferred maintenance on housing stock in our community. 200,000 of that went to their Energy Assistance Fund, where community members could apply through that, meeting specific requirements for that program to receive up to $5,000 for energy efficient upgrades to their homes. The other 100,000 was reserved for deed restriction funding, meant for larger projects that would be above the $5,000 limit. So if C4 with the county funding was going to contribute a lot, you know, to repair someone's roof or foundation or things like that in an exchange for a deed restriction when the house came onto the market. But those are the basic things that are outlined in the memo, and in the my memo from last year, and then the contract that we have, or the PSA we have with C4, but from there I'll turn it over to Emily and Christian to talk about all things.
Thank you all for having us today. I know that you know myself and Christian, our community resource navigator. We also have Richie Mutu, our new energy program director as of this morning, so he's getting a quick start. So since we received the $200,000 in support in January, we predicted that we would be able to help 40 households over the course of this year. And we have actually been able to help 66 households. So the average request that we're getting is less than the original $5,000 we were allocating for each home. However, we have expended all of those funds as of August 6th, and we already have a wait list of 5 households who have filled out the application or taken some steps towards making a home improvement. 4 of those are roof replacements, and 1 has some mold related work in their home that needs to be done. And we are coming up on the end of this summer and our construction period, and given that there is no deed restriction program available to the community yet, and the results of the housing needs assessment, we feel that if the county is able to reallocate those funds to the Energy Assistance Fund, we would be able to quickly spend those funds and continue to make home improvements rather than asking households to wait through another winter and risk even more damage to their home. I think the results of the housing needs assessment highlight the need to continue to maintain the housing that we have, that if we continue to not take steps towards improvements, we are risking an even worse situation. And so since we have started distributing those funds, 76% of the funds have gone to homeowners, 24% went to renters, but I will say that is with an asterisk, as many of our mobile home owners are legally considered renters because they pay lot rent. We do have a few situations where we have some renters that don't qualify for other state and federal programs like bill payment assistance, where we've been able to tap into this when their leases explicitly state that they are responsible for these costs. So we do not spend these funds unless we can verify that our applicants do not qualify for any other option, that this is their only option. And oftentimes using these funds means that those renters can stay in these homes rather than losing their housing completely when there is little to no other option at the moment. And then just in terms of demographics, and this is data that was all requested in our original contract with you, so we wanted to make sure we could provide that information today. Actually the majority of our clients are Latinx, approximately 62% for this program, which is in alignment with the housing needs assessment that our Latinx community members are living in worse housing conditions. And then another interesting piece that we found was that according to the housing needs assessment, female householders are also more likely to live in worse housing conditions in Lake County, and they accounted for about 50% of our applications. So
What were the numbers? Associated with those percentages?
in the housing needs assessment, I don't recall that there was an exact number, but it did explicitly state that our Latinx or our Hispanic community members do live in worse housing in Lake County. 47% of our Latinx community members live in mobile homes versus 1% of our white community members. Our mobile homes many of them are reaching even though there are newer homes in our community, many are reaching the end of their lifespan. And so that is going to be another challenge. And then Christian has some more information that is directly aligned with the housing needs assessment.
Yeah, the program really heavily does target, those of course started before the housing needs assessment was done. It does target our audiences that we really wanted to target. When we're looking at what types of repairs, the housing needs assessment clearly outlines that 26% of residents that responded to the survey said that their homes are in poor or fair condition. And amongst those respondents, we're looking at 39% that needed their homes to be weatherized or named their top priority to be weatherization, 31% in need of roof repairs, 22% in need of heating repairs, and 15% in need of insulation, which is usually also weatherization. A lot of the repairs, if not most, do fall under these categories that we have. We didn't collect that data initially because it wasn't part of the agreement, and it just wasn't something that we were forefront thinking of. So for this year, we won't have the exact numbers of what those repairs were. But we did do a lot of that work. One thing that I found interesting was that of all the roof repairs that were made, none of them were actually repairs, all of them were replacements. which tracks with the aging of our houses and mobile homes. As Emily stated, most of our mobile homes are nearing their life expectancy towards the end of that. And in terms of our housing stock, the average home is about 100 years old. So in terms of the program that we're providing, it provides that benefit to those older households and to the owners of those homes, which allows them to continue living in their homes. Often cases we do see people going into debt to be able to afford these repairs, which adds to their housing instability most of the time. Especially for our older, community members who are on fixed incomes. Additionally, housing instability is really heavy for our Hispanic community members. As the housing needs assessment pointed out, we lost about 500 Hispanic identifying community members. Our program clearly highlights that we do target Hispanic and Latinx community members, with 33% of the total applicants speaking Spanish, which is a really high number for our community, and 62% of all of our applicants for this program specifically being Hispanic or Latinx identifying. When we look at other programs that are also utilized, as Emily mentioned, we do require them to go through other programs if those repairs are more better addressed by those programs. So we heavily lean on CARE and Weatherization Assistance Program, or WAP, both of which are programs ran by COGS that help with weatherization and heating specifically. We have had about 12 clients fully shift to that program to address their needs for weatherization. So that's 12 houses or homes that were specifically gone through the program of CARE, and to my knowledge, fully processed through CARE, meaning, and Weatherization Assistance Program, meaning that their heating needs were met or their weatherization needs were met. And of course, those are state-funded programs, and we try to utilize any programs like that, or SIP, which is a crisis intervention program that people who are applied to LEAP specifically can access for heating emergencies, which we have made referrals to. We love to use those programs as the first program they go to rather than ours, so we're making sure we're being good stewards of the funds and utilizing all state funds before we go to local funds. And still, we've come across the situation of being out of funds. These programs don't specifically address any repairs like roof repairs, which is part of the reason why we are out of funds. Is this program really does target a lot of those different types of repairs that currently don't exist in any other programs. And that is a big reason as to why we're out of funds.
What do you guys need to be able to track how our funds are being expended? Like what repairs and
So we,
just so we know what's going on.
yeah, so we do have it on applications, it just hasn't been moved from applications to a data tracking system.
Okay.
C4's energy program, as just one of our 4 programs, has expanded from serving 20 households per year to 200. As many of our programs have experienced that same level of growth. And so it is in our organization's strategic planning for the future over the next year to improve our tracking, to use something like Salesforce and build out something that's much more explicit. It just, because it wasn't in our original contract with the county to track explicitly what types of repairs, we didn't build it into our data tracking for this year. And because we ran out of funds 2 weeks ago, we just haven't had the time to build that into our current system. It's something we could definitely consider for the future, but
Can we
Do we
get
need to
a,
update the contract to reflect that, or?
if that is something you all are interested in, I think we're very open to it, to keep exact track of what the individual repair is.
I see a way that the building department can be collaborative and help, and this is an amazing program. But a lot of these repairs do require permitting, roofs require building permits, so there's an opportunity maybe for waiving fees. Before with C4, when there's been hot water replacements, heater replacements, or the COG has been involved, we waive the cost of the permit, but that way we make sure that things are installed and inspected. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of re-roofs on some mobile homes that couldn't support the load. I'm not talking about any of the work that you've done, we've been working right now with some, and this might be a resource to kind of help these folks out, so I'd love to reach out about that, but making sure that whatever trusses are put on mobile homes, sometimes they can't support that load, so we have some improvements that have been done that could put the unit in kind of jeopardy of collapse. So we would love to partner on this, and that will provide tracking too, because then we would have the basis of what the scope of work is, and so it could be a way to be collaborative and supportive, and then making sure that those are getting inspected and making sure that we also have access to making sure the carbon monoxide detectors are in the properties too, and when hot water heaters are checked or changed out, or heating units. And then we can just kind of close that gap on making sure that everything was installed and safety is being considered as part of the installation. And then we would have some tracking data as well, so we might be able to help support that.
Yeah, we're very open to it, it just wasn't in it and we didn't have the time to go through that number of applications.
That would have required me, I fully run all of our programs through CARE, weatherization assistance program, LEAP assistance, and bill payment assistance, as well as EAF. It would require me to personally go back and ensure all those connections, so it just wasn't a viable thing for us for this time period, but certainly something we can build in, especially if it's needed.
Can I add one thing, but I wonder if you were wondering what types of repairs, aren't you paying the contractors directly? So can we just get like recipients of the funds, and it's like, okay, plumbing, roofing, so if you have that, maybe that list.
No, we have all of the information,
yeah.
It's just like, because it wasn't in the original request, we didn't track it in that way, so it would require us to go back through.
Just entering it into a spreadsheet.
So
Yeah,
it's
and
absolutely feasible.
Yeah, I'm saying, I mean, it sounds like it's a great program, okay, but I think it helps us to support it, and if there's questions about, well, where is this money going to, yada, for us to be able to access a database, this is, hey, this is what the money was spent on, and okay, so I'm thinking like 2025, to get this rolling and work with Ann, and so if we have questions about, okay, what's the number one repair? What is this money being spent, if you need additional funding, then we'll have a better picture of what's going on.
Yeah, we can implement it essentially immediately going forward, it just is.
Can we go back at some time,
And we can go
and
back
just like
before the
get
end
that
of the,
too, that
before
would
the
be
end
really
of the
helpful,
year.
cause all your data points are really helpful.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that, and everything does fall under the category of health, safety, or energy.
Yeah.
That is our requirement.
Okay.
So,
Additionally, lastly for the program that I think is really important to highlight is in terms of NOAA, or naturally occurring affordable housing, we target that audience very directly. 38% of our homes are mobile homes, and 18% of the homes that we work in are duplexes. Means we're targeting the affordable housing in our community pretty well. And making sure that that housing stock stays affordable and doesn't require high entry fees that we see in our traditional homes that would make mortgages obsolete and not attainable for a lot of these homes. So that type of work does help for preventing that and helping our community stay in their home as well as live comfortably in them. Additionally, I wanted to highlight that this program, I spoke with Jennifer, the person who helped us with our regional housing authority and contracted with us. about this program, and she's interested in potentially duplicating the program and looking at this program as a model program, specifically because of the flexibility of the program, specifically with the clients as well as the funding source and what it could be used for. And duplicating that program within Gunnison Valley with their housing, Regional Housing Authority and their HEAT program, which is a collaboration that they have between their local energy organizations such as C4, I forget what their counterpart is there, and the Regional Housing Authority. So it's proven to the point to where other communities want to start looking at this program and duplicate the work. And specifically because of the flexibility and fun and the low barrier entry for our clients and relationship that we have with our clients that just would not be able to be achieved currently by other existing organizations in their communities and in ours. So in terms of that, we felt pretty good that this could serve potentially as something that they could learn from.
I had a couple questions, or maybe one comment, and one question I was just actually curious, like so you still have like people coming onto the wait list, and at least sounds like just roughly like at least already a quarter of that 100K would already be like ready to go. But I guess, do you think like at that level, like say 200K a year, are we gonna like catch up? Like is that demand gonna like taper off at some point, or do you think it's just gonna be sort of like, almost like that's just always gonna be out there? And maybe that's too hard, maybe you just don't know yet, cause it's year one.
I think we don't know yet. I
Yeah.
think our hope is that this, combined with other efforts around affordable housing in our community, together can make a difference.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't allow households to come back. I think that's something we're gonna have to consider and really think through next year. What situations we would or would not entertain.
Yeah,
But I think we've all been into various different types of housing in our community. And as costs continue to skyrocket, I think we really have to consider what are the different ways that we can keep our currently housed community members in their homes. And I think keeping someone in their home for $5,000 a year versus building a new unit or having them leave our county, that cost is low, very low.
I think the other, I don't know, maybe like a comment or discussion for the commissioners, so like the 100K, I think we still want the the deed restricted program to get up and running. So to me, the question is like, are we rolling that 100K into next budget year for that program, or are we, addressing this continued unmet need, so.
I had a question that adds to that. The 4 roofs and the mold, like do you think that's a $5,000 fix, or is it a 10, 15, 20? And I asked that because your comment in the beginning was that the deed restriction program hadn't been created, but I think, at least in my head, the thought was like, you find that need and then we talk about and have that conversation with the homeowner and whether or not it's a mobile home and it's appropriate or not to do that, or it's like a senior in their home. I think that was like developing as we go along. So do you think, I don't think we have to have, a deed restriction program is just putting the funds towards that, and I think we like build it as we go and figure out what is going to be like palatable.
From my perspective, and this is more so with my regional housing authority hat on, we would also have to fully administer the deeds and run the deeds and know who signs the deeds and who keeps track of the deeds, where that lives, and ensure there is a mechanism in place to where if the house were to sell, foreclose, or any other such thing, that there is a proper mechanism for the deeds to continue existing. So it's a little bit more complicated than just, saying like, let's go for it. And I think that's where the hold off on that was from our part, since we wouldn't administer those deeds, it would most likely be you all or the Regional Housing Authority. That's From our perspective, it's on pause for that reason. Now, in terms of the actual clients and their usage for these types of programs, I mean, maybe, all our clients who have used the 5,000 have been able to front the rest of the funds themselves. Of course, roof repairs usually are much more than 5,000. I can't say for sure that most of them would be interested. A lot of the roof repairs we did are on mobile homes, so, you know, it would have been conversation to be had in terms of how that works anyways. And in terms of the current people waiting, my recollection of it is that most of them are mobile homes as well. I'm not sure that we're looking at any specific houses right now, at least from what I remember. Could there be interest in it? Possibly, but I would want the program to be fully stood up before I offer them that to them. And there are certainly situations where certain households might be good fits, but it really just for, you know, when you're providing services to a client, you don't want to tell them a program may or be coming or exists if it already isn't in place, because that could lead them to false hope and tarnish a relationship. So for the most part, we have been from just purely relying on this until we heard back from where we were in terms of the other funds and when they would be operational. That said, if they were operational and that program did exist and there was a proper mechanism to get people in and out, yeah, we could have those conversations to see if they're better fits. But what type of deeds, I would look at the housing needs assessment to see what the appetite is for what types of deeds.
Well, and I think that's as the county, we would create that deed and or partner with you to have that conversation of, is this just like owner occupied or what? Because I feel like it's really more closely to a voluntary, what is the threshold? What is the appetite of any given homeowner? I do think that we have the legal ability to do that, and there are plenty of like checks and balances through the assessor's office in like flagging those home properties that are deed restricted. So I don't think that like we need to assign that to someone else necessarily. I mean, when you're dealing with a apartment complex with 40 deed restrictions and people might be in and out, if it's a rental, like that is a real burden, and I know that there have been mishaps in other communities where deed restrictions just aren't caught, but I think that's kind of like an ongoing conversation of educating and highlighting that to title companies and our assessor's office. Because there are there's that checklist in the assessor's office that they go through every time a house is transferred. And I don't know if there's some way beforehand, right, where you can, I mean, from the lead paint to all the property infringements or entitlement issues or liens, right? There's
Right, yeah, typically with any transaction, there's gonna be an early title commitment, which as long as there's a covenant on the record associated with deed restriction of the title, is tied to the assessor's office. So you have a dual kind of, there's a property declaration form that is signed through the transaction and a real estate sale. So you can catch it both at two opportunities at the closing table, one through the title research and second through the property declaration. So there's two opportunities. The only thing that might slide through, and again, with the assessor's office that can be caught, is something that's transferred by quitclaim, that maybe between related parties or something, such as that, but that wouldn't void the deed restriction.
right.
I also think to add to that, with the homes that we're working in with the Energy Assistance Fund, the homeowners that I am aware of who might be interested in deed restricting their home, I don't know that it would be appropriate because of the quality of their home. Because even if you are deed restricting it, you're then reserving essentially our worst housing. And so I definitely think we are still interested in that approach. But what we have really seen is that these homes are not necessarily ready for that yet. And I think that is a conversation we should have with a staff member at the county around like, is there a baseline that is acceptable? Some of these homes perhaps the county could purchase and repair and then deed restrict.
Right.
But some of them, I would not.
Yeah, no, I understand, yeah, no, and I think that's part of the learning and like building that like sophistication in the program that we do, so yeah, I can appreciate that.
And I think we also, to be clear, in this request this year, you know, what Jeff asked about the future, we are actively seeking grants for this program. We have not submitted a grant yet we haven't been denied any grants. We are waiting to hear back, and we've probably by the end of the year, we'll submit over $1 million in grants for this program. So we are seeking additional outside funding, but in the short term, this was the option that we saw in our community. And I think this program is actively keeping community members housed who have no other option right now. So I think in the future, if there are funds available in future budget years, we would love to reconsider the deed restriction and keep having that conversation. Potentially we can allocate funds from Energy Assistance Fund to the deed restriction program in the future.
Yeah.
And then we are aware of households that we can go to and say, hey, you actually could be eligible for $20,000 to make your home something that is now sellable.
Right.
That through this program. So I think we are definitely learning as we go. And we saw this as a potential opportunity to keep this program open, at least for a few more months, if not through the end of the year, rather than having to tell clients they have to wait till next year.
Yeah, but sorry, I'm just like catching up in my brain. That's a really good point about like needing to have some threshold of quality, like so you don't restrict something that is like sellable or almost, uninhabitable.
Like I think we do need a solution for mobile homes and deed restriction, but also a lot of our mobile homes are reaching the end of their lifespan, and I don't.
Yeah,
know
to be
that's an
honest, I
option.
wouldn't think that was a great fit. Anyway, that's not really. Can I ask Lauren if she has any thoughts?
Please.
Lauren?
No, thank you.
No, okay. I really do, I wonder, I don't know if it's like changing the contract just with the nuances of like working with the building and land use for permitting and like getting that reporting kind of included in there, but I think that that's like good information to start collecting and like discussing through together on how we, where we're seeing this occur and like what, sorry, I don't need to repeat everything we've talked about.
We're very open to adding an amendment to the contract that says that by the end of the year, we would report on the types of improvements that we are making. That is absolutely feasible for us to do. It just wasn't for today.
Do we have referrals for like seniors and stuff too cause some of those are like the ones I had in mind too, for those big improvements and that have like either physically or not been able to keep up with their homes.
We do get referrals from DHS. We work with several
Like
caseworkers in
okay.
various departments, some more actively than others. There's one case I know of that we speak about on a very regular basis. So we do actively work together, and I think we've seen an improvement in that over the last year.
Yeah.
And not just DHS, I'm thinking of the senior center through public health, that like, those are the populations that like may be interested in deed restriction, that may be worth a conversation. So just talking about further collaboration.
For what it's worth, we have been to the senior center and had multiple conversations, and I have worked with people in that field. I actually haven't found that any of them are too interested in a program like that in my experience. That said, obviously it's not every senior, it's just those who went to that center. And more often than not, they're actually the ones that use less of the full funds, in my anecdotal experience without having the data in front of me.
I will also say one thing we have seen on a few occasions is when we have households that have repairs that are beyond the 5,000, when we have contractors that we do work with on a regular basis who do multiple households for us. And some of them have been willing to work with us and those households when they see a situation that is really dire. And they've said, you know, we will actually donate our labor so that this is within the cost and it can happen. That's something we've also seen.
That's great. Given the, I don't know, I just really want to like have some, I don't necessarily, I want those projects to happen, especially on the waiting list, and given the season, the construction season so far, and not wanting to necessarily like waive all possibilities of bigger projects coming, a need coming this year, could we like consider kind of the waiver of like those funds for 25 or half of it, and then like have the 50, and if we're just not there and we don't have the demand, you know, we have this conversation again, and it can be more brief probably, but to
So-
just keep it going.
So sorry, just so I understand, thinking that there might still be an opportunity to get the deed restriction pathway established in this calendar year.
Yeah, just, or somehow have the understanding and the agreement, like, you know, I don't wanna miss anybody who really needs a large improvement done to their home. And I don't know if we can spend all that money, I mean, I'm sure could we spend all that money in the season, right?
I'm more than happy if you all want to include it on the agreement that we can use more than 5,000 if we have a conversation with whatever parties necessary but work on that as like the pilot part of this program. I would be hesitant to put a amount on that, at least in contract, though I can certainly like hold back on how much. You know, the beauty of this program is it's fully internally ran. I'm the one who makes decisions on how the money is ultimately spent and the flexibility of it. So I'm more than happy to have like hold on to certain funds, especially for some clients and have that conversation with them who would be interested, and have them existing in the budget. And if they don't end up going that direction, then we can still have the flexibility to use them while keeping the option open. I'm more than happy to have that as part of the contract.
Do you mean use them as like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 projects, or?
Depending, yeah, sure, if
Or maybe we just flag that as like the conversation that we have internally, if there's that.
I think what I'm hearing from Christian is like we're willing to offer, like we can make the offer to all of our clients when they come in.
Yeah.
We can potentially help you with more than 5,000 if you're willing to discuss deed restriction. I think what we would need from the commissioners is how do we go about that and who do we talk to at the county, because I don't think trying to get on your agenda every 2 weeks is
Right.
the appropriate path to
Yeah,
have that.
we should create that chain.
So I think if that's something that you all could provide, we could probably try to have that conversation with a few clients with you all this year. We would just need to know who do we invite to those meetings.
What do you think you'd best administer?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the staff person would be Jackie when she's sort of established in her new role with backup from, legal or,
CPD,
other
yeah.
folks, depending on what the questions are, but yeah, I mean, that question, how, like, whether we think the housing authority or the county is the right entity,
Well, I think at the time being, the county can do that on
yeah,
what, maybe a handful, if any.
yeah,
Like, I think we can manage that, and we can always,
yeah. And Kristen rattled off a good set of questions that are non-trivial, like,
right, again, just back to like the constant conversation
yeah.
of deed restrictions though, and like the scope of what it is we're talking about in managing that in different scenarios, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. I mean, I like the way
This
you were
scenario.
describing it, like, where you can offer that when it seems like an appropriate thing, and that, if there's a a live, client, house, maybe that forces the discussion
I
best.
mean, I think I am not as familiar with every individual situation as Christian. I would say I'm aware of one client that I think it would be worth the conversation with pretty quickly.
And we probably have that pretty quickly.
Well, I'm almost wondering too, if like, set up some sort of an initial planning process where if you find a property that needs this additional thing, that you connect with Tim and Jackie to kind of vet it initially, because like you pointed out, there might be some properties like mobile homes or, leased properties where part of the challenge is we wanna make sure that we're not incentivizing landlords to not take care of their properties. But the ones where there are leases that say the tenant has to take care of the property or something like that, to where to be able to explore those components without having to bring them all back to you guys as they point out.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns, is that you've got, an unscrupulous landlord that is aware of this and misuses this program to improve the properties that they own, and then turn around and jack up the rent, right, and force people out, and
To this day, we haven't encountered that. Most renters are, again, people who understand rent as I pay my lot rent.
Lot rent, yeah.
And the other part are like, technically I'm renting, but I live with my parents. They still qualify as a household, but they consider themselves renting, or family. Haven't actually worked with any traditional landlords with traditional leases. Or people renting in that capacity for the home repairs.
And those types of renters do qualify for care and weatherization, so that is where we
Usually
send them
yeah.
if they have a concern about the quality of their housing. That program is very equipped to work with landlords. We do not have any local Leadville landlords who own many homes that they do not maintain that have come through this program.
that's a good thing.
And I don't think that we would entertain that.
Yeah, or you get 3 homes of this same owner or something and you start seeing a trend and we all try to have a conversation.
Yeah, but most people own their homes, including some of the renters. It's way too much of a hassle for us to try to figure out how that works, so as Emily said, most of the time it's just go through this program that has much better scrutiny and review processes of that. And we're kind of just having a really warm handoff for that application, fill out with them, and they go through that process, and that has happened, and we have made those referrals, but I don't think that's kind of the intended targeted audience for this program specifically.
Back to my last question, but I think it was great discussion. Do we think we could like open up $50,000 and then have those conversations of like the chain of command and the way we like make decisions, and the one or more potential folks that might use like a significantly more chunks of the money?
Yeah, I think that even $50,000 would make a difference. That's more than enough to cover the households we have on our wait list. And then I think now that we have more clarity with the vision behind how you would like to go about the deed restriction, I think we could, as we said, I think there's one client, we would send the email as soon as we get back to the office to say, is this a conversation you're interested in? That we could try to pilot one household this year for the deed restriction.
Yeah, okay. I would be open to that,
Yeah, yep.
okay.
Ready to?
No.
For clarification, are you specifically saying that 50 would be, all 100 goes, but 50 would be for the deed restriction program, is my understanding
Well, I
that
say
right?
I think like 50, we'll release 50 for like continuing the
Yeah.
way you've been doing, and then let's keep the conversation and kind of like keep that other half, get a better chain of command and like
I see.
thinking process of criteria and like what thresholds we cross. Especially if you have one person, I would be interested too, as just a side note, like in that conversation, I totally agree with the thought behind like the condition of the home to deed restrict, but a deed restriction is a deed restriction on the property. and that is still really beneficial, I think that conversation leads to like, what level do we put into the existing home to help this person without like getting, I don't know, I just have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we could flesh that out as it
Okay.
goes, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, I'll move to, what am I saying?
I mean, I think the actual motion on budget is just, I think where we landed is just the motion to authorize the, sorry, I don't know if it's reallocation is the right word, but reallocation of 50,000 of the outstanding 100,000 from the deed restriction line item to the energy assistance or deferred maintenance program, the deferred maintenance program. And then, that's the actual motion on budget allocation, and then there's just sort of direction to staff. Sorry, Jackie's not here, but sort of Jackie, Tim, and other staff as needed to, begin to have the discussions with, internally and with C4, so that we are ready to be a good partner on those discussions for the remaining 50K in the deed restriction program.
Beautiful.
Do you want us to draft a contract amendment for data reporting?
We can
Yeah,
certainly
oh,
do
yeah.
that,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
going forward.
Just like, yeah, building that contract. Great. Okay. So I'll move to reallocate 50,000 of the deed restricted funding to the deferred maintenance funding. And also direct staff to work with C4 to amend the contract to reflect our conversations today.
Surrounding data acquisition,
Regarding data collection,
acquisition, analysis.
okay, regarding data acquisition and analysis.
I'll second the motion.
Great. That sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. And, yeah, sorry that took a long time, but that was a very helpful discussion just to understand where we're going.
Okay, we will see you
Yeah.
in
Thanks.
2 weeks for soccer.
Okay,
Thank you, Will.
thanks, and yeah. Okay. Agenda item number 5, discussion and consideration of a request for proposals for language access and compliance for human services.
Yeah, so that's me.
Okay.
So DHS was awarded a $125,000 grant from Healthcare Policy and Financing, the state Medicaid office, for our language access initiatives in our interpreter network. This funding is year 3 of funding, that's gonna allow us to move into other counties to help train them on language access, compliance, policy development, and best practices. So trying to help other counties do what we have already done and how to set up interpretation, have good language access policies. The second half of the funding is really gonna go to outreach and recruitment of our existing interpreter network, and then to provide training to our interpreters, specific to DHS issues, so.
Lauren, can you remind me, the grant that we got was, did we compete to be like a regional leader in doing this project? I'm not remembering, like, with the specific like intention in year 3 to do outreach to other counties and do that, okay.
Yeah, so it's before my time, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
hopefully be correct. As far as I know, we did like a strategic planning process in year 1, and part of that is year 3, we're going to take what we learned and try to expand it to other counties so that we are this kind of best practice,
Kind of hold the institutional knowledge, I guess, of that and act as a resource for other counties building that.
Yeah, so if other counties have issues, they know to come to Lake because we're the experts in this area, so.
Another question. How many years is this grant
It's a
total?
1-year grant.
Oh, okay,
I thought it was over a 3-year.
So it's the same pot of funding that we have come back to 3 times times and have been awarded 3 separate times, but they're 1-year grants.
Is there, how many more years in like the total scope is anticipated?
The grant funding never goes away, we can continue to apply for it. The hope is that like eventually we can start, our interpreters start billing, we are becoming self-sufficient and actually making money off of this program.
Okay,
But that's part of our strategic planning and getting into other counties so that they do come to us.
okay, that was also part of another question of are we, what do we project as gaining from this, and or is this creating a strain on the department at the moment where you wanna?
No,
propose
so
some
the
different
staff
approach?
members that do this initiative are actually funded through the grant, so they're
It is
solely
specific
dedicated
to
to
this.
it, yeah.
Just wanted to, great, thank you.
Thank you for asking that question.
Great. Okay, okay, so I'll move to approve. What are we doing?
Number
You're
5,
posting the RFP?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll move to approve the, posting of the RFP, request for proposals for language access and compliance for human services.
Second motion.
any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye, great. So that motion is approved, language access RFP. Great, thanks. Number 6, discussion and consideration of an RFP for human services to become a Medicaid enrolled behavioral health provider by spring of 2025.
Yeah, so this next grant also comes from healthcare policy and financing. It comes from the same pot of funding that we received for the interpreter network. This grant though has 2 prongs. The first one is funding for FTE to support our vulnerable adult case management program. So as you may know, we have a kind of case manager, care coordinator that really targets at-risk adults who are enrolled in Medicaid. So these are people who may have disabilities or are aging, and we are providing basically the on-the-ground services to help them with activities of daily living or to help them get things that are gonna help them with permanency in their current situation. These are folks that if we didn't intervene early, likely would become part of our adult protective services caseload. Which then we're talking about nursing homes or sending people out of state to go live with family. The whole hope is to really do case management and wraparound services for them. So this provides funding for 1.5 FTE to do that case management work. The second part of the funding is to have us do an RFP for a contractor who will help us hold our hand basically to walk through how to become a Medicaid enrolled provider, how to bill appropriately, how do we set up our EHR so that our program for vulnerable adults and our high fidelity wraparound program can start billing Medicaid so that it starts paying for itself, which means less money coming from grants, less money coming from the general fund, less money from our allocations, so basically trying to make it self-sufficient financially.
Great. I'll move to approve the posting of the RFP for human services to become a Medicaid enrolled behavioral health provider by spring of 2025.
Second motion.
Sorry, I had a couple other questions. The not to exceed 50K, is that sort of, would that come up in the 2025 budget? Or like, where's that money coming from, I guess, is when and where is that money coming from? Is that already kind of allocated, or you anticipate it being in the 25 budget?
It's part of our grant that we were already awarded.
Okay, so this is just like, we have the grant, but this is just the services to do it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sorry, catching up. And then, do you anticipate, I mean, this is probably a contractor from out of county, this is like a pretty specialized thing to get us up and running to be able to handle locally. Okay, great. That was it for me, so. Everyone else good?
Yes,
Okay, call for a vote.
aye.
Aye, great, so that is, that RFP for Medicaid enrolled behavioral health provider is approved. Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, number 7, discussion and consideration of the Arkansas River Community or ARC Preserve Management Plan timeline update.
Hi, afternoon. This will be quick. So as you know, we are engaged in ongoing efforts with Central Colorado Conservancy and Colorado Open Lands to develop this long management plan document. We received feedback from the board at a work session several weeks ago. We also received feedback from CCC's board within the last handful of weeks as well. And as a management team, we are working through reviewing that feedback and getting a few things up to speed. Primarily CCC's feedback was trying to get more clear guidelines on responsibilities for mostly monitoring and implementation priorities. So our team worked over the last couple of weeks to develop a little bit more of a robust table than we had in the original plan that you all took a look at. And we've identified some of those monitoring responsibilities, timeframes, priorities, things of that nature to appease some of the CCC board's requests and feedback. So those edits are going to be submitted to our contractors on August 30th for final addition into that plan document to then go off to the final copy edit. We expect to see that back by Labor Day, about a week or so for the copy editor to have a nice final clean version to then present to you all in September as soon as I have it for final adoption and approval from the SEC.
Okay.
Quick question, just I had thought about the part of the conversation we had about including the easement and the ownership agreement, and I wonder if we can include that and or like specifically reference the recording number, reception number at the clerk's office in the recording, or I know with land use files, we've been like recording things together. And if we could just record that together as well. I mean, Tracy, is there a problem with having we have the easement for the property recorded? Is there a problem with recording that recorded document in
Record
this
whatever you want.
with it? Okay,
So for clarification, is the
Alright.
recording a reference to the other document or is it including all pages of the other document?
well, there seemed to
in
be
this
a
plan?
problem with
That would be a
recording all
question for Chris.
pages in the other document for some reason. But we had the conversation about like not fishing for those other,
That's gonna be my
Documents.
suggestion, is that the new recording include the other document in full, so that you're not having to go back and try to search.
Embed it all together in one.
yeah,
Okay,
which we've done with land use files lately, right, so that we're not. Okay, so
yeah,
that's
so
just,
so what we'll likely do then is include both easements because there's a conservation easement and there's a public access easement.
right,
And then if you all have any other feedback of specific things you would like to see included in that one singular file, it just makes the document longer, but you're totally right, for ease of referencing, having it all together is certainly easier.
okay, excellent, thanks.
So like I said, as soon as I do have that final clean version, we'll get it on the regular meeting as soon as I have it.
Thank you.
Great, thanks for the update.
I don't know where to leave these.
I'll check.
Are we good to keep going on a few more agenda items for a break?
Absolutely.
Great. Agenda item number 8, discussion and consideration of land use file, number 24-22, Sugarloaf Mountain Lodge conditional use permit.
Thank you. I have today a statement of motion from the planning commission regarding file 24-22, the Sugarloaf Mountain Lodge CUP. based on the joint hearing that we had on August 12th, 2024. So hopefully all commissioners have been able to watch the public hearing, and we're looking for a decision on the file today. So the motion that I have from the Planning Commission was made by David Clark Barrel and was seconded by Joey Edwards, with all 5 members being in favor of the following motion. They move the Planning Commission recommend conditional approval of file number 2422 Sugarloaf Mountain Lodge CUP to the Board of County Commissioners with the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall confirm the intention to operate during the county road seasonal closures. Winter operations during this time shall be subject to access, parking, and guest winter safety guide approval by CPD prior to accepting guest bookings. Number 2, applicant shall furnish the guest policy reference for review by CPD and appropriate local review agencies, so additional information can be added as needed to ensure guests are aware of the best local practices and resources while visiting the Lake County backcountry. This shall be completed prior to the first arrival by guests. And number 3, the applicant may apply to CPD for review and approval of day events which do not include overnight lodging for up to an additional 30 people. These events shall be reviewed and referred to any review agency CPD deems appropriate to consider without limitation, impact mitigation, adequate safety, and facilities. And number 4, all statements and representations made by the applicant in its application and in hearing shall be binding and considered as conditions of approval. And they further found that the approval criteria, section 3.6.1F, had been analyzed and evidenced in the staff report and found that was dated August 12th, 24. So happy to answer any clarifying questions on the file or any concerns.
I don't have any, I looked at the video and
Yeah. I didn't have any additions either.
Okay. I'll move to approve file number 24/22.
I'll second.
No further discussion from, well, just, I know, Anne, we talked about that in the hearing and the winter or not the winter activity, but the special event sort of activity, and I trust that if and when that is too burdensome on your department, if that like becomes a big thing, you'll figure out whether that this like, it needs to be like wrapped into the CUP or not, you know?
Right, and I think it was, well discussed about, what were some triggers to need to bring it back through the CUP process. So, anything that would be, an increase in density or a substantial increase of use, then we wanna bring those back through.
Right, and again, just like remember these two mining claims, these two parcels that this is addressing and
Right, and I did receive an email, which isn't really relatively new information, just that Craig Bissonette did, we've been going back and forth and talking quite a bit, but he just wanted to reiterate again that these two claims are a distance away, most of the reclamation projects that have been done or are ongoing in the area. So just further support that, these are, as long as we stay on these two parcels, we'll have less of a maybe concern about review of environmental and mining hazards.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I mean, sort of similar thing caught my eyes, maybe we can just follow up on our next one-on-one is fine. Just, there's a lot of things for CPD to keep track of and follow up on and review. So I'd be curious, like how, just to learn how you track that with multiple.
Absolutely, and in this particular instance, the onus is on the property owner if they wanna expand, if they wanna hold a special event. They would have to reach out, because they would be out of compliance, if they were to operate without, but of course, we have to keep eyes on that. But with the increased, staffing and enforcement, thank you very much, we are able to start, getting some better hands-on enforcement and oversight.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Sorry, just to make sure I'm tracking right, we did get a motion and a second on the table right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Great, okay, so.
And I guess I didn't technically say as read into the record, do you want me to, should I add that to my motion? Okay, I'm sorry.
Amanda.
Can I amend my motion, please, to include the statement of motion read into the record? Thank you.
Good clarification, okay, ready for a vote?
Aye.
Aye, great. So that motion is approved on 24-23. Okay. 9, a discussion and consideration of an IGA between the Lake County School District and Lake County Government for the conduct and administration of the 2024 general election to be held November 5th, 2024. So,
Would you like to squish 9 and 10 together? Discuss.
yeah,
Okay, so I have received notification from both the school district and the sanitation district of an intent to participate in the election on November 5th. And it is a requirement that we have an IGA in place with each district, outlining all the responsibilities, deadlines, et cetera. So this is, and it's been reviewed by legal.
and everything, yeah, great, so,
Do we, sorry, I have a question, does each organization has to do a resolution that authorizes
Correct.
the election, okay, so the county doesn't have to do a resolution,
No,
okay, the commissioners
Just
don't,
approve the IGAs.
okay. So then I think then on the question for the housing authority, so they need to approve a resolution.
I think they have done theirs. We have, the city resolution, we have, sanitation district, we have, school district, did we get theirs?
I thought we had finished that one already.
We are missing the IGA for the city.
It
So
hasn't
that
come
never
through.
got put on an agenda.
Okay, are they still doing, I know they're deciding tonight if they are doing, or that even if PB Swims does their own, then we need to do an IGA with them.
No,
Yeah.
because PB Swims, their petition is through the municipality, so
Okay,
they're the
okay.
sponsor.
Okay,
So whether they come to some agreement or not is not our problem.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, they said last night at the DEMS meeting that the city's not gonna pursue a tax, sales tax.
okay.
They're gonna.
But we still
yes,
need an IGA with the city for this election. Okay,
Yeah, it's just gonna be.
Yeah.
which is.
The city has approved their IGA, we just never got it on an agenda.
Okay,
So when I was backtracking, I realized that we haven't
No.
approved that one.
the deadline's September. Or
August
August.
27th.
Okay, alright,
Yeah,
special meeting it is, okay,
that's the last hanging.
okay.
okay. Maybe, yeah, when we do calendar review, we can make sure we find a time when at least 2 of us are here. Okay, do you think, good to get the discussion going, do we need to vote on these separately since they were, yeah, okay. So look for a motion to approve, for agenda item number 9, a motion to approve the IGA between Lake County School District and Lake County Government for conduct and administration of 2024 general election to be held November 5th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. Great,
Nothing
good on
from me.
question, so call for a vote?
Aye.
Aye, great, so the IGA with the school district for elections is approved. And then on to number 10, look for a motion to approve the IGA between Leadville Sanitation District and Lake County Government for the conduct and administration of the 2024 general election to be held November 5th, 2024.
So moved?
Second.
Great. Question, so
yep.
call for a vote?
Aye.
Aye, that also is approved, again, for the Leadville Sanitation District. Great, thank you everyone for getting those reviewed. Onto, what's pending, oh no, number 11 was pulled. I could take a very quick break and then pick up. Yeah, full water. Thanks Tracy for moving those along.
agreement to be consented to by the.
Sorry, you were muted.
Oh, sorry, okay, we'll start over. Last year, the BOCC granted Kathleen Heinrich, Kurt Hensley, and Gretchen Warner, landowners of a parcel located at 4526 National Union Placer, an access, non-exclusive revocable license agreement regarding access and use of county property to allow them to cross over Lake County's property located adjacent at the same 4526 National Union Placer, for ingress and egress, and put in a driveway to their property. That agreement required the county's consent for assignment, and they have contracted to sell that property to Peter Stockwell, and he wishes to assume the assignment and the responsibilities under the agreement. So what's before you is the proposed assignment and assumption agreement for that access agreement. It's been reviewed, it's pretty standard form. It's conditioned on the sale actually closing, which is scheduled for September. So, but it's necessary for the title company to clear that, for the title for closing. So, and the agreement says that, the consent shall not be unreasonably withheld, conditioned, or delayed. So it was anticipated that if they did sell the property, that the BOCC would assign that access. So I would request your approval of the proposed agreement.
Guys, just one thing, they're probably just like totally different numbers, but like in the agenda, there's like the number 33-09-80, and then in the like memo in the packet, there's like a parcel ID number. Are those just different?
It was just an easier way to differentiate because they both essentially have the quote address of 4526 National Union Placer, so the differentiation is by the parcel number.
Okay,
So that's why I included that in the memo instead.
okay, so what is the 33-09-80 number
That's in the,
that's on the agenda?
Maybe the section township and range that the.
I was gonna say, that's,
Okay.
yeah, it's the additional legal
Okay.
description aspect of it, I think.
Okay,
I just thought it was easier to go
Yeah.
with the parcel numbers that we were talking about instead.
yeah, no, I just wanna make sure, something hadn't got kind of pasted in there that it's gonna get confusing down the road. So, that was it for me.
And the actual assignment agreement lays out the full legal descriptions and
Okay.
everything, so.
Okay, any?
No.
Yeah, okay,
I'll approve the access assignment and assumption agreement for lot 1, Down area number 04526. PT National and Union Placer 33-09-80.
okay, I'll second. And call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye, great.
One thing I'll note is that they did, for some reason, they picked up for the signature page, an old signature page, and put Sarah's name as the chairperson, so we'll need to strike that through. But
Okay.
it took them quite a while to get the 3 different current landowners who are in different parts of the country, so it took them a while to get that back, so.
Yeah.
The rest would be just strike and do that.
Okay.
So we'll take
Sounds
care of
good
that.
and noted in the record.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, 13, discussion and consideration of property tax initiatives 50 and 108 and the special legislative session.
Yeah. So, sure, we've talked about it a little bit before, but there are 2 initiatives on the ballot, 50 and 108, that deal with property taxes, and one of them deals with not just personal property, non-residential property taxes. Last couple days ago, the governor called a special session. It'll start on the 26th and last till the 29th. Just to back up, last year, in the last final days of session, the legislature passed Senate Bill 24-233, which is supposed to be this grand compromise on property taxes, with the expectation that there wouldn't be something put on the ballot. There was, regardless of that grand compromise, which is 50 and 108. The organization that is really putting and pushing those initiatives, Michael Fields in Advance Colorado, has agreed on a compromise piece of legislation
And if that passes, has said that they will take 50 and 108 off the ballot, which needs to happen, Tracy, sometime in September. So just wanted to go through with you all about what each of them does, with the hopes that you'll take a formal vote on the piece of legislation that we can let our delegation know about. So the status quo, let's go over non-residential and personal property tax. Right now, it's at 29%. If the legislation, the second compromise legislation passes during the special session, in January 2025, that'll go down to 27%. And then in 26 and in 27, it'll further go down, so it'll go 27%, 25% for agricultural and commercial land, 26% for everything else, and then 2027, it'll stay flat at 25%. So within 2 years, it'll go from 29% to 25%. If 108 passes, starting January 2025, it immediately goes down to 24%. So there's no ratcheting down, and it's a lower number. It does not apply to mines or oil and gas properties. So property tax is more confusing and more nuanced. So under the legislation, there's triggers. So if it would reduce residential property valuation, but it would be contingent on how much the increase happens statewide of actual values of property taxes. Again, it's not by county, it's by the state. So the increases in the front range will impact us. So if statewide, the actual value of residential properties is greater than 5%, our local governments would have a 6.15% valuation. School districts would have 6.95%. If it was less than 5%, it's 6.25%, and school districts would be at 7.05.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
Both of those.
So if it's greater than 5%, the increase, local governments would be at 6.15. School districts at 6.95. If it's less than 5%, local governments would be at 6.25, school districts would be at 7.05. Under 108, it's basically everything goes down to 5.7. You add that if 50 passes, 50 just applies to residential property. If at the county level, your property tax revenue increases by more than 4% over the preceding year, you have to go to the voters to ask to keep whatever was over that 4% every year. So it's like tapering. It constricts the growth of what you're able to retain. Depending on your political and personal views, the legislation is less constricting on your revenue generating from property and non-residential than 50 and 108 passing. It is the lesser of two, maybe I shouldn't go into that. It has less of an impact on your general fund revenues. We were able to talk to the assessor to get high level numbers of if 108 passes. 108 is gonna be the biggest impact to our budget. So if 108 passed, and these numbers are just first glance, real quick, looked at it, we would have a $17 million difference in our assessed value, which would equal between $600,000 and $700,000 into our general fund immediately.
A decrease in value.
It would decrease our revenues, yeah.
And sorry, which one is this again? Sorry.
108.
108, okay.
What would be the revenue?
Between 6 and 700,000. 668 is the guess, but again, those numbers might switch. And that would be
And that's assuming that the trigger hits, and yeah.
immediately. So we We haven't ran the numbers on the legislation just because we just received it, but you might guess it's going to be less than, it won't be worse than a $700,000 impact.
And it, sorry if I'm catching up on the latest draft, and it just changes the assessment rate one time, so it's not, it also seems to me that it has like sort of a one-time hit, but it doesn't have that just like continual kind of cap or ratchet.
Yeah.
Um,
The legislation has the ratcheting effect.
yeah,
The 108 immediately. You go down to 5.7 for residential.
So the 108 would be a greater shock to the system than the legislation,
Yes,
and it would be immediate,
yes.
along with 50.
50 would, so as I see it, 108 would have the biggest shock to your revenues, to the system. 50 would really impact your ability to grow over time and keep pace with the services
yeah,
and whatnot that the county needs to keep pace with. Many communities, CCI and a lot of other counties have gotten behind the legislation begrudgingly. I think some have described it as making a deal with a gun to your head. But many people are pushing for the compromise legislation for the special session because they're not willing to bargain or to gamble with 108 and 50 both passing.
yeah,
So, but at least it's helpful for, if it does not pass, it's helpful for your budgeting of like, probably immediately you're gonna have $700,000 less than you expected. And our projections moving forward about what we're going to increase as far as what we bring in will need to be revised.
and then sorry, remind me again, do any of these impact mine by proceeds? So
Not active
yeah,
mines from what we understand.
yeah,
Just if you want numbers, so under 108, the revenue to local governments could be up to 1.8 billion in the first year. It may be offset by state reimbursements, but about relying on that.
yeah,
School districts are gonna be hit pretty hard under both of these, but under 108, they're expecting to lose $630 million to the School Finance Act.
Yeah.
And I will note, if 108 passes, the great work that Speaker McCluskey did in her piece of legislation that really increases the amount of funding to rural schools, especially schools with at-risk children, does not go into effect.
yeah.
This is the gun to your head experience and
Yeah. And I'll just add, I mean, having like sat and I made the CCAT discussions and like one of the CCI discussions, and yeah, it's that sort of like what, so yeah, negotiating with a gun to your head, and then what's the guarantee that if you pass the compromise legislation, that this doesn't just keep happening every year, couple years?
Yeah.
If it's a proven thing, and then, I think some people were mulling in their heads, like, I mean, do you just go to voters and try to either make the case, or I'm gonna mangle the saying, but it's like democracy is where voters get what they ask for and you give it to them good and hard. It's like,
Would you like a timeline on all this?
yeah,
State has to certify the ballot September 9th. So you'll know one way or another, September 9th.
yeah,
I would be surprised if we did not see a referred measure changing constitutionally what it is to get on the ballot, a citizen initiative. It's just too easy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a lot of funding to do it.
Thanks for noting that impact on the schools. I've been paying more attention to that. Yeah, that would be very bad for the community.
So just like to plug, like, you know, as we figure out where to spend our money today, we keep forgetting about investing in like revenue generating opportunities, so I just think it keeps falling off of like the top priority for economic development. So we keep in mind.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have a choice.
No, me too either.
The choice other than to essentially let our delegation know that we're supportive of the legislative
Yeah,
compromise. I mean, obviously TBD when there's a final version of it, but that the risks of 108 and 50 are just too strong to roll the dice. Sound right to you, Hal?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Is that good enough just to have here the discussion? We don't need to take a vote on any formal position.
I would,
Okay.
I would just go on and say that the BOCC voted to support the compromise legislation, just so you're on the record.
I mean, I think we have to say something like slightly bigger, like,
Yeah.
I mean, since it's gonna be a moving target, I mean, as something slightly more vague, but as we understand where the legislative compromise in the special session is headed. But would love to hear and, you know, keep tracking that, and if there's substantial deviation from the current draft that we're aware of, that we should come back for more guidance.
Maybe it's the motion to support compromise legislation to replace ballot initiatives 108 and 50, something like
Yeah.
that, so you at least reference
Yeah.
those two things.
We should have a clean draft on the 26th when special session
Nice.
starts, so if you
Yeah.
wanna say something formally on the 27th. But yeah.
okay. Alright, I'll move to take a formal position of supporting the legislature's effort to create a compromise to 50 and 108.
Second the motion.
And just comment, so I think, you know, let our delegation know, maybe let CCI and CCAT know, and maybe CC4CA, I don't know, I mean, not super in their lane, but certainly CCI and CCAT. And then, yeah, as we just discussed, sort of, if there's some very significant change in what we see right before the ledge session, we can come back, but sort of leave that to staff discretion about what substantial means.
Okay.
So, great.
And is it okay if I let Representative McCluskey and Senator Baisley know also?
Yeah,
We can potentially revisit on the 27th, like you said.
yeah,
Right.
great, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, great, thanks for pulling that update together fast. Great. Okay, 14, discussion and consideration of funding in the amount of 88,000 to repair and replace pavement on Prospector Drive to Prospector Drive and Silver Eagle Court. Tim?
Sure. So broad background, in 2020, Lake County completed a street inventory and a 5-year rehabilitation plan. To fix all of our road infrastructure would cost $24.5 million, which is unrealistic for us. But the rehabilitation report did recommend $500,000 a year budget to improve the overall score or condition of our roads. So the rehabilitation plan scored all of the county's roads that were paved and also some of the unpaved ones, giving them a score. From there, we can build out plans for repaving and upgrading roads. So we do have various roads types: network, arterial, thank you, major collector, minor collector, and local. So in the past few years, we've focused on the arterial, major collector roads, so county roads 10, 99, and 5. which have been vast improvements. We've also worked on the key replacement of culverts and bridges on those roads. As you're aware, we have both paved and unpaved roads, and the board in 2023 approved a plan of focusing on paving projects one year and dirt roads and grading projects the next year, with the intention of building up to that $500,000 budget over time instead of one large contribution per year. So we have done that. This year we focused on our unpaved roads and grading projects, and that work is continuing. We've almost wrapped up, but they've made a lot of good progress on the county's dirt road network. So Silver Hill subdivision is a local road network, and there are various areas that need to be improved. The 2020 rehabilitation plan recommended that the subdivision be addressed within 5 to 6 years of the plan. 4 years in. So Public Works has done some cost estimates for Silver Eagle Court, where the worst damage is. So for asphalt is $78,698, $13,300 for the rental of the laydown machine. You will note that that does not add up to the requested amount in the agenda. That's because there's some other funding in Public Works that can be used for the rental of the laydown. So doing the full replacement of Silver Eagle Court, as you'll see in your packet, is the more expensive option, but it will repair the worst areas, and replacing all the potholes and past patches where dirt is now showing through. Going through another winter will just make this worse and probably more expensive for next year to go through. Road and Bridge Foreman has said that this and the 11A culvert replacement can be completed this year. So this is an unbudgeted request and a decision item before the board. There's some pictures I added to the memo, but happy to talk through anything on the request.
Thank you for pulling and referencing the plan. Appreciate it.
I had one just quick side comment. I think we chatted about this in a one-on-one, but I do think, I mean, there's a lot of, complaining about potholes is like pretty standard, but, and justified. I think figuring out some way to communicate to folks that we do actually have this plan, and an approach, cause I don't think people realize that and how much work and assessment does go into it. So I think just to encourage us to, I think we need to do like a town hall on it, but like some way so people can see that we're not just sort of like randomly patching bits of road.
Well, it'd be
Yeah.
nice to get like a 3-year project, not year, because it's every other year, so three cycle like projection of what the plan is.
Yeah,
Right?
yep, like so people know what, so the same way we get stuff from the state on state highways, it's like, here's the 10-year plan and, your section of Highway 91 or whatever it is scheduled for X year, just so people kind of know. Again, that we're not winging it every year or two.
This is a safety issue on this particular stretch of road. There's the winter plowing and stuff just making it worse and worse. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It's breaking it down in the dirt.
Yeah, and sorry for that, like, detour that I just made. I mean, I agree with you, Hal. I think, and Tim, you mentioned it quickly in your comments, but I mean, to let something go over the winter when it's just gonna be more expensive to fix in 6 months or 9 months. But in the next budget year, I think if we have the time to take care of it with our road crew, getting that able to survive the winter makes sense to me.
So what's the recommendation from Public Works on the full replacement or just is there a possibility to do the sections? What?
You could piecemeal it, but that whole section, Hope Bow, Prospector Drive does need to be replaced at some point. So those other options that you see there are you consider the worst sections are the areas that are causing the most issues and challenges, so could redo the whole thing. And I think that is, you know, the preference from road and bridge foreman, and I think for residents in that area is just having the whole area done.
And that's the entire list there, or just that first, sorry, where's my list? $78,000 project,
Yes, that would be the whole,
the whole list in Silver Hills?
yeah.
Okay. And I'm assuming that would be mobilized at in the same month of 11A, right? To move asphalting.
Yeah, so if whatever the board decides today, Public Works will mobilize.
Does Mabel have any is she on here to represent Public Works?
Yeah.
Any comments from Mabel?
Nothing really right at the moment. All I know is that we do have the box culverts that we have to do too, so.
Yay. That's good news.
Motion?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve pavement replacement and repair in Silver Hills, specifically Prospector Drive.
I'll second. And I don't have any other questions or comments.
None other than just, 2 points you have made, Commissioner Fiedler, and, Tim's memo on, actually allocating kind of a meaningful amount year after year, so just let's keep that in mind, as I'm sure it will be brought up for our budget conversations.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that pavement replacement as presented is approved, and the additional funding of 88,000 supplemental budget allocation. Great. 15, discussion consideration of 2024 Colorado Strategic Wildfire Action Plan or COSWAP Landscape Resilience Investment MOU with the National Forest Foundation. Tim, you're listed here.
Sure, so continuing on Commissioner Mudge's work of securing funding for wildfire mitigation efforts, Lake County was awarded $500,000 from the Department of Natural Resources for the 2024 Colorado Strategic Wildfire Action Program's Landscape Resilience and Investment. So this is a 3-year grant for cross-boundary landscape mitigation and planning. What that means is that it crosses property owners, crosses properties to work on larger mitigation efforts within our community. So going back a little farther, in 22, Lake County finalized our community wildfire protection plan. And part of that was establishing the Forest Health Council to guide implementation of the CWPP. National Forest Foundation is a member of our Forest Health Council and committed to developing and implementing projects to achieve our goal to treat 20,000 acres by 2033. To accomplish this, we went out and sought funding and all of that, but we can't do it a whole lot just by ourselves, so we partner with National Forest Foundation amongst many other organizations. So BLM, the State Forest Service, Federal Forest Service, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, State Land Board, other local, state, and federal municipalities, and then land managers, and any private landowners in this. So the project was awarded to complete 434 acres of treatments across various properties in the community. So this would be an MOU between Lake County and the National Forest Foundation to carry out that work. The way the grant was written is that it's a $500,000 award, $490,000 of that would be pass-through funding to the National Forest Foundation, and 10,000 would stay to, for Lake County for overhead expenses for administering the grant. There is no local match.
That's fantastic.
There are maps in that application that's in the packet, which I would just love to point out, continue on from the acreage that we've currently treated. BLM went through a NEPA process to participate in the application in those parcels up in Iowa Gulch. And there's significant BLM properties around the airport. The project will continue the work from the CMC campus south, also to the airport and the power line. And then the work on 5A, where there's currently work being done on Sugarloaf Mountain and south of Turquoise. So 5A, those parcels and private landowners add to that nice kind of mosaic of effective treatment areas.
Sarah, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Those piles that are over at, around CNC.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there any plan to burn those or dispose of those or what?
Yep, Arwick is, what?
Go ahead.
And CMC are working with, the state to have a burn boss and a burn management plan. So they're developing that.
So the plan is to burn them in place?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. They may very well have to remove some of them, because to me, some of them look very close to other trees.
There's a lot of them around trees and
But-
trails around there, right?
Yeah, but they are coming up with a plan to address that. And then wood around the community field, I think the Swift crews are finished now. I guess I need to circle back with Sam and Arwick, but there should be more firewood to collect around the community field.
What about Mountain View, the slash,
That was all, Mountain View, that was all collected.
it was? Okay.
Yep,
All right.
Public Works, thank you so much, went out and did that.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay.
On that, I've gotten a couple questions from folks, is there like, who do people ask about what's available for, what firewood is available for pickup and what is,
All of them are generally available for pickup, it's just when the crews are out there, we kinda wanted to wait till the season is done to open it up for people to go. And then Mabel has been running, we can collect the, excuse me, hours of people who go collect it for themselves, collect those hours as volunteering, clearing hours for other grants, so
so should folks
folks should
contact
go to Mabel,
Okay.
yep. So that we can, track that.
Yeah, okay,
But no other, like, permitting or cost, we haven't been doing that.
cool. Okay, so we just need to vote on that MOU with NFF.
Yes.
Call for a motion to approve the MOU with the National Forest Foundation for the 2024 co-swap landscape resilience investment.
So moved.
Second?
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Call for a vote?
Aye.
Aye, great. That MOU with NFF is approved.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Welcome.
16, discussion and consideration of the protection of personal identifying information certification. Tim.
Sure, so in 23, the state of Colorado created the Protection of Personal Identifying Information Act, which places certain obligations and restriction on state agencies from collecting and sharing PII. So in order to ensure that state contractors and vendors, of which Lake County Public Health is one of those, we have to do an annual certification on that. Just stating that, you know, we're going to follow the law and not divulge any of our clients' PII.
Okay. Cool, yeah, I didn't have any questions, anyone else? Okay, then we quickly, sorry, are we acknowledging or approving that certification?
approving,
Okay.
giving me the authority to sign it.
Okay, great, so look for a motion to approve the PII certification and give the county manager signature authority.
So moved.
Second?
Great, call for a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. 17 and 18 were pulled for further prep and discussion. 19, the county manager's report.
Sure. So from operations team, we're working on onboarding an IT specialist. Sammy is doing great, at taking over all the branding work and building out all of that information for us. Also, doing all of our, external comms and starting to help me with internal comms. And we should soon have all of our resolutions and ordinances from when, Lake County was created till today for access on our website.
Wow.
You will have, more of an update from Public Health this afternoon in the Board of Health meeting. Mark gave a stream of consciousness, but I think there are good things in there for you to understand as he continues to fix the assessor's office and things that were done by prior administrations. So he's working through those. The challenges, that he still continues to have is with the software. Last week, he was at the statewide assessors conference, worked, barraged Tyler with many questions and trying to get support. They are going to have an in-person training, I believe next week, for him and his staff, but this alludes to greater problems that we've had with this software countywide. So just reminding you again that you will probably see a larger ask in the 2025 budget for software changes for the assessor's office and finance office. Then Mark has also been helping with Lauren and I with projections for property tax changes. If you have not been across the street to the new visitor center, you should swing by for a tour. It was a great hit at Boom Days. I mentioned last time, the chamber has a new director. The chamber has had its first official meeting, so they are getting off the ground. They actually have six functioning board members. They're doing that. The Small Business Development Center, thank you, has a new contractor for entrepreneurs. They live in Leadville. Her name is Sam Block. They're gonna have space in the annex, so they can have a physical presence, and then also have, working with the team on booking that conference space in the annex to meet with local entrepreneurs. Our visitation numbers are up for July, and then we do have a new business on Main Street, the Rocky Top Toy Shop. Lauren continues to do great work at Human Services. The new Human Services Director, Laura, starts tomorrow. There's a new Deputy Director of Economic Security, Sierra O'Neill. Sierra's made a lot of changes to better support our community. And this Thursday, she'll be hosting an open meeting with community leaders and stakeholders to talk about the changes at the Public Assistance Unit within DHS. I know some of us are going to CCI, others are going to the charrette in the afternoon, but if you do have time on Thursday, that would be good for a commissioner to go. OEM updates, we are continuing to work through the AAR. We held the full after action review and are now doing one-on-one meetings with each commissioner to get their feedback before we have the full report, but to present to the board for adoption. Last week, Claire did the advanced PIO class, which opens her up. She needs a little more training, but opens her up to do introductory PIO classes, so we can do train our local staff through Claire. Hazard mitigation plan is continuing to work on that, especially the federal government is pushing hard on getting disadvantaged or vulnerable population feedback on that, so she's been working closely with our Spanish-speaking community on getting feedback to the hazard mitigation plan. For HR, over in July and August, we've had 7 folks start and onboard, including Laura, who starts tomorrow, but also a key position of Public Works. Our project manager has started. Had a few separations. And we did conclude our performance reviews this year, where it was still folks were eligible for merit increases. So we have 76 or 100 folks, full-time employees were eligible for that increase, and you can see the breakdown of folks where they're at. Obviously with the ones on the lower end, that's working with HR and the manager or director on coaching or any performance improvement plans or transitions out that may need to happen. I'm remain incredibly proud of our team. This is our second year doing it. The performance reviews are going over well and having a positive impact on staff morale. We continue to do employee appreciation and engagement. So we did have our ice cream social last week. We had 50 folks come by to see the new space. If you haven't seen in the treasurer's office, but Erica won the coloring contest and won the bear. So new addition to the treasurer's staff. Our employee appreciation party is scheduled for 9/13 at Ice Palace Park. We'll have our giveaway games and foods and awards for staff. DEI training starts on September 18th for managers and directors. And then, for Public Works, we've done some dust control efforts, especially more on the southern end of the county, continuing and wrapping up some of the grading of the county roads. We did bring the Boom Days rock down, and we now have started creating road base because we did receive the APIN or the air pollution emissions permit for the airport pit. And on that note, we're still waiting for the APIN for the air burner up at the landfill. We did get an update on Monday that it is going through the process for approval. It's taken 2.5 years to get to this point, so we're gonna kind of wait and see just a little bit longer before we ask the board for more formal engagement on asking CDPHE what is happening. Our maintenance crew does amazing things for Boom Days and the race series, so if you see them around, please do thank them for all of their work for helping set up those massive events in our community. And we are replacing the boiler in this building with an all-electric one. Okay, so we got somebody else. What?
Current one, gas.
Yeah. So later this week, we have the charrette study with the steering committee, so that's Thursday from 1 to 4 at the library. Fall programs are open for registration and some are already getting started. The Parks and Rec and Open Space and Goal team were extremely helpful with the Boom Days breakfast and our float. If you're not aware, we won first place for the float. Big deal, but the Boom Days breakfast was also good. That raised money for local scholarships. County staff volunteering their time to serve breakfast to folks. James worked closely with Public Works on clearing out the willows at Hayden Meadows, which has been a challenge, especially this year, given the amount of water and flooding we've had. But we took out a lot of the willows, so things should be better there. Received the Colorado Parks and Wildlife RPI grant for $50,000 for the Outdoor Alliance Group, so that's one that you had previously approved, but we did receive it. The Climate Action Plan RFP was posted, and we did submit a grant application to the Colorado Energy Office for a sustainability manager position that would cover the salary and fringe for that for 3 years. Goal, Brian had a great summer, his first time running Rockies Rock, but he was at full capacity, 150 campers. You guys had approved that school district MOU last week, so we're getting started on that work. And the Gold Bus and their trip to the sand dunes was featured in the premiere of the Lifetime video that the Tabor showed last week on the race series, or on the run specifically. Are there any other areas I can update the board on?
September the 17th, Brian and myself are gonna be meeting with Copper Mountain Management to plan some skiing and snowboarding activities for Global Youth this winter.
Okay.
Thanks.
Excellent work.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanna put that on there, but Brian just put out that announcement about that outdoor footy
Oh, yes,
coming
yeah.
up in September.
We'll start echoing his communications on that. If you did not go to last year's Outdoor Equity Summit, it was amazing. Really good programming, really good food. It was a really great day. So if you have the time, that is, Brian, when is it?
17th, or no, it's either there. I don't know, email.
September 14th, Saturday, September 14th.
Okay. Calendar review.
Thank you. Do this sideways. Alright. My hair in your drink. Okay, we'll start on the 26th. We got a little quiet weekend quiet week so far. Monday the 26th, the CCAT Counties and Commissioners Acting Together Special Session, Update and Advocacy. That just showed up today, so it's not on there. We've got the Fire Management Board meeting at 1. And the Planning Commission meeting at 4 p.m.
That's good.
27th. We have the BOCC work session at 9 a.m. The 1 p.m. work session and the 6 p.m. Joint work session with the city.
Sandra,
Yes.
on my calendar, it's showing that planning commission meeting is canceled, is it? Which is it?
No, next
No?
week's is on. I don't know why. Oh,
Wonder if they,
I think Ian updated all the invites to make sure that,
Oh,
or CC did.
is that a time change or something in there? Or maybe,
I think it was,
I think it was a location, wasn't it? Location update maybe?
maybe.
Okay.
Anyway, it is on.
Take a-
It'll be a joint work session with the planning commission to discuss EE Hill.
Okay, on the 28th, community coffee at 8:30. The Lake County Emergency Services Council at 10 a.m. And the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Government board meeting at 10 a.m. And that looks like a hybrid location. It says location to be determined, so that's all I've got so far.
It's in some, yeah.
oh, I think at some point,
That's
like,
rodeo
they,
ground,
oh,
sorry. What, they,
which one are we talking about?
The UAA COG
Okay,
board
sorry.
meeting.
it's at the fairgrounds, community, like center.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I showed on the invite
That's-
today, but it's probably changed by now, maybe. I'll take a look at it and
Okay.
update it.
And myself and Mayor Green are gonna go in person, we're carpooling together, so
Great.
we will be there.
Yes.
Okay, and that's all I'm showing so far for the week, if that's the same for you guys.
That, on the 29th, we'll need to end, well, do you wanna make, we're doing communications out on it.
For the event,
You're right, yeah, okay,
that should be able to.
yeah, let's add the one on the 29th for the Know Your Rights Training and Community Justice Town Hall.
Ah.
It's 5:30 to 8.
5:30 to 8?
Yeah.
Okay. Where's that at?
City Street Joe.
Okay. Okay, I'll put that on there. Not the only thing that's missing?
Yes, I don't see anything on Friday.
Alright.
To note for next week that I'm scheduled to be at the office Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, be available by phone and text or something, if anything urgent, and I will be here Tuesday for the workshops.
Alright. That work session agendas. The 27th. So for the 9 AM. We're looking at the update on the community center feasibility study with Brenna. Overview of the Leadville Lake County Animal Shelter budget. Overview of the IGA with the Leadville Lake County Animal Shelter. And I wasn't sure on this one, Tim, discussion regarding E.E. Hill, is that
Yep.
by you
that'll
or
stay.
Bryce?
No, it'll be Bryce,
Bryce.
Ann, and Michael.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, you changed it, oh, perfect.
For number 3, I might just like rephrase that as like
Sure.
overview of the Leadville. I might just take IGA out because it's broader than that, like it's really like I'd just say overview of Leadville Lake County Animal Shelter and animal control. And leave it at that,
Okay,
cause it's gonna get into more than the current IGA is
right.
clear on. And then a question on that, we had asked, have you already invited animal shelter and city folks to attend, or should I do that? Cause I think we were hoping to see the presentation that will be the joint session in the evening.
For the evening?
Yeah,
Okay, I will make sure that that is done.
yeah. So I think it would be like at least Caitlin and Laurie and maybe the mayor as well.
Okay.
For our work session?
Right, like, well, that's what I recall as what we had wanted, was like, we wanted to see,
Thought we were
we
talking-
wanted to see what was gonna be talked about in the evening with the city
Oh,
as part of our, like,
we
the
need to get that
presentation,
presentation.
and which will include some of the budget information.
So you're asking them to come present that?
Yeah,
I thought this was like more of an internal conversation to prepare for our conversation with them. I just feel like that's a different conversation.
do we want, then what material do we want?
Or is that the opportunity that you were talking about to provide input
I think,
towards?
yeah, I think
evening's
it's a
presentation.
last shot, I mean, hopefully we might see a draft like towards the end of this week again, based on conversation I had, but I thought the hope was just to like really make sure that we're super on topic and answering all the questions in the evening. So, I mean, I don't know how to do that other than to see the presentation.
Yeah, no, I think we should.
But yeah, you're right, I mean, if we then have a discussion, like I don't wanna jump on top of the evening discussion.
I don't think it's. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, I just wanna prep with like you downloading us
Yeah,
and figuring out, our concerns and remaining questions.
yeah. I mean, again, the evening session is a work session, we're not negotiating.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to, or at least for me, and maybe I'm being too casual about it, but like, I don't think we need to like have a nailed down county position. I think we're trying to just like raise all the questions, and like, to me, the goal of the evening work session is to have sort of clear direction to staff on sort of like what pathways to start fleshing out IGAs or more detailed kind of operational discussions on, like, the goal of the evening is to like get clear, like, hopefully agreement, but clear where the city council and the VOCC sort of are, so, yeah.
Okay, I'm not
Yeah.
like totally objecting to that, I just didn't know if we, I mean, I am happy to still have that conversation internally, whether or not, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
so maybe, I mean,
but I
so-
would, yeah, I think if we don't have that presentation now, we don't have that now. The expectation is for them to bring that to us Tuesday.
yeah,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I will, like, later today, I will,
You talking about like a PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah.
Why can't it just send it to us?
sure, I
Draft
feel
or
like if we
something
have,
like
if we have questions, I mean, might be good for them to hear that.
Has the sheriff's office been, are they aware of the morning work session too, cause they might, somebody
Excellent
from there might,
question, yeah,
yeah,
so,
to have them involved, cause I know they're pursuing other animal control options as well, so it might be
Yeah.
good for them to
Yeah.
get some input in maybe before the evening work session.
yeah, so I think, yeah, if you could make sure that
The sheriff,
that Heath knows about,
sure.
this.
We
Well,
just
so-
let Sarah Bushman at the city know, and then the city can decide if they wanna come or not. Or do you want?
Oh,
like a-
for,
For the morning, if
For the
they want to
morning
send-
Yeah.
work session.
yeah. I mean, do we wanna have two, like, do we wanna have two separate agenda, I mean, these are in public, but like, do we have two separate agenda items? One is to sort of like specifically to review the material for the evening, and then a second agenda item for a VOCC discussion, so it's like kind of clear.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think, I do think that it'd be fine, and I think Lori and Dana, I mean, it'd probably be good for them to hear some of that too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
ask them questions.
Yeah.
Preemptively from the evening.
prior to the evening.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, like, part of my goal here has been like, I don't see any value in blindsiding anyone at 6 p.m.
Mhm.
Well,
Right.
or y'all being blindsided at 6
Mhm.
p.m. with the presentation that they're going to make.
Yeah,
Whether or not we, sorry, just needed to talk through that and like
Yeah, yeah,
what
no,
we
I
were
think
doing, so.
no, I think that's good. So maybe 2 and 3 just become, I mean, I know that the budget is part of that presentation. That they're pulling in, budget and actual, expenditures as part of that, so maybe 2 can go away and 3 is just as we suggested.
Sure.
Just like a broader discussion.
So
You
overview
wanna
of the
do
Leadville
your-
Lake County Animal Shelter budget
Yeah,
and
and
IGA.
I'm just saying.
No, I think, I think 2 can completely go away, and then 3 just becomes overview. What I say, I think on 3, we can just strike IGA, cause it's broader, so again, 2 goes away, and 3 is overview of so that, and then at the end, and animal control services.
I would suggest an overview of Leadville Lake County Animal Shelter operations, or what is it you wanna, what do you want?
Sure,
I mean, it's services,
yeah,
it's services and operations, right? My interpretation of it.
This is, and then animal
And then the animal control piece is a whole nother topic.
But I think we should say animal control in here, cause we're gonna get into that.
No, that's fine, I'm just
Yeah,
saying that
yeah.
we're talking two different things.
Yeah, for sure, and that's, yeah. And maybe just to fully flag the discussion, so, okay, if you go up. Leadville Lake County Animal Shelter, I would say, you know, current and potential.
Current potential operations and services.
Yeah.
Operations and services.
Cause I think the discussion, I mean, I just wanna flag for people that it's clearly more than just sort of like a routine mid-year update. Sorry, we're probably overthinking the time, but.
Okay, and then we're gonna make sure the sheriff's on the invite and the people at the
The
city.
folks,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Fine, thank you. And then water enterprise and augmentation plan updates with Bryce. And general fund reserve policy led by Tim.
on agenda item number 3, there's a slight typo of Ann's last name.
Okay, and the 1 PM, so far we have the airport advisory board. I didn't know if I needed to be more specific with this. I know Josh.
Okay, so let's put that, I won't suggest. Yeah.
Okay. And detentions and courts.
Does that mimic the last time which we did?
On that one, do you need, I mean, feel free to keep asking us questions in the interim if you need more, yeah, just more thoughts or input from us. I can just in one-on-ones or whatever.
And then for our 6 PM joint work session with the city council.
Yeah.
Does that language look fine?
Six P M is gonna be held here,
Chambers, city council.
city council?
So we can update the header on that.
Yeah. Very good.
Maybe, and, I like the phrase, like, community services. So, I might say to discuss city and county desired community services for that long list of stuff.
Say it again.
To discuss city and county desired community services for blah, 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 and related stuff, or unrelated functions. Or yeah, whatever, yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, thanks.
then we just have the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
A second,
No further discussion for me?
Or me either.
okay,
Aye.
aye, consent agenda is approved, as posted. And at 1:41 PM, we are adjourned.